Hey YouTube! So, before I get into the main point of this video, I would first like to say that I have 100 subscribers as of I think like a day or two ago, and that is freaking awesome slash amazing slash all of the words that are synonymous with awesome and amazing. And in addition to that, I checked my page views on my blog, and even though I haven't updated since May, I know I was supposed to update last week, as I said in my previous video, but I'm going to this weekend, I promise. And I actually mean it. But I checked there, and I have 1,152 page views, and the last time I checked was shortly after my last update in May, and I think I had maybe like 970 or something, so that is also really awesome. I'm glad people find my life interesting and entertaining. And yeah, I hope you tell your friends about me so that they subscribe too. Okay, so main juice of this video. So I had a very intense, maybe 15-20 minutes. Like my entire day was pretty relaxed. I actually woke up on time. Yesterday I snoozed my alarm for an hour. Luckily my first class was canceled, so that was fine. But today I only snoozed it half an hour, but I still made it to class early. And just like the whole day was good. Not eventful, but not in a boring way per se. It was just relaxed. So I get off of the train and I cross the street and I'm waiting for the crosstown bus to get to my dorm because I was too lazy to walk the 4.5 avenues. And this guy comes up to me. He's like, you know, I don't remember how he greeted me. Maybe excuse me or hello or something. And I was like, hey, you know, or hi, something. Now, when I responded to him, I spoke kind of softly because I've definitely had some awkward moments where I've responded to someone who was not talking to me. So I kind of speak a little softly just so I can kind of like play it off for myself if the person was not talking to me. And I also had my earpiece in. I was listening to music as I waited for the bus. So, you know, I could play that off to myself. But he's like, can you hear me? And I was like, yeah. So, you know, I definitely raised my volume for that. And he's like, I hope you don't take offense, but can I take a picture of you? And I was like, why? And he's like, you know, I've never seen like the grayish, you know, that grayish color of your eyes. So I didn't tell him that I usually describe my eyes as blue. Like, I've gotten people who say that it's gray, but I think they're blue. But anyway, so, you know, he's like, that the grayish color of your eyes, I've never seen it before, and, you know, I think it's really pretty or beautiful, or he used both words. And I wasn't sure how to respond initially, but eventually I was like, okay, sure. He's like, you know, I'm not going to use it for the internet, you know, it's like just for me, which is a little creepy, but okay. And I'm like, I have tons of like pictures, you know, just being on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and like going to random events. Like when my sister and I went to the pizza festival on Wednesday, they took our picture, you know, for their social media, and you know, I was just like, okay, whatever. And he said that he wasn't going to use it for the internet, and I was just, again, very flustered. It was just a weird situation. So he took the picture or whatever, and he's like, you know, your eyes are lovely. And before he like walked away, he's like, oh, by the way, I'm a brother too. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I was just awkwardly responding, just for the length of that interaction. Okay, he goes away. It's a couple seconds later, and this dude's like, come this way. And I was like, what? And he's like, the bus is coming, come this way. And I was like, oh, okay, you could have started your sentence with that. I didn't say that, but I thought it. You know, rather than just shouting at me. And again, it was one of those moments, I wasn't sure if he was talking to me, so I didn't say anything, and you know, he said it again, like, come this way, and I was like, you know, me? Why? So the bus is coming, and the guy who shouted at me was, you know, he like took my arm, and he's like guiding me forward, but then there was this lady in front of me, I guess he didn't notice, and I like bumped into her, I was like, sorry. She's like, oh, you can go first, but then people were coming off of the bus, so, you know, I was waiting, and then, like, somebody's like, oh, you know, there's a bunch of people coming off, there's one, two, there's just a lot of people, and then everybody around us just kind of, like, chuckled, and I was like, yeah, haha, and he's like, I'll tell you what you can get on. He's like, it's the same brother from before who took your picture, and I was like, okay, cool. So I get on the bus eventually, you know, the guy's like, you can get on now. Great. So I'm walking, and there's the first few people, like, I kind of touched their feet with my cane, and I was like, okay, there's no seat. And I was like, you know, excuse me, is there a seat somewhere? And this lady, she takes my arm, and she's like, you know, sit here. Great. So I'm on my phone, and she's like, God bless you. You know, you're very blessed. And I was like, oh, like, thank you. And, you know, she said, bless you, God bless me again. And I was like, you too? Is that an appropriate response? Do you say that? I never know. Like, I alternate between saying thank you and returning the blessings, you know, by saying you too. So then she asks about my phone, and she's like, you know, does it have Braille on the screen? And I've gotten a lot of people who've asked that. Like, do you have some sort of tactile feedback, or are you touching Braille? Does it look like I'm touching Braille? It's a flat screen, just like yours. But, you know, I don't say that. And I was like, no, I'm actually listening to it. I use audio. And I was going to show it to her, but she's like, oh, no, it's fine, it's fine. That's great. It's amazing that you can do that. And she's like, you know, I'm so proud that you travel, that you're not homespun. And I stopped myself just short of, like, laughing. Because she said homespun, and I was like a dress or something. But, you know, I was like, thank you, or whatever, and that was that. And then she turned to some other person beside her. I think they're disabled as well, and she's like, God bless you. All of you guys just traveling around. And it was odd, but, you know, appreciated. It wasn't, like, super weird, I guess. So, she gets off the bus, and she gives me more blessings, and she leaves. Okay, great. Then I get off of the bus, and I walk to the corner, and the parallel traffic, so the traffic to my side, my left, you know, that was, you know, we were walking in the same direction. The traffic and I are moving in the same direction, in case no one knows what parallel means. But that traffic was going, and I get to the corner, and I was like, okay, I know that I can cross because the traffic in front of me, you know, is not moving. I'm elaborating on this. I know I have a lot of blind subscribers, but, you know, those sighteds don't know, so I had to explain it to them. But yeah, so the traffic in front of me wasn't moving, and it's a traffic light intersection. So I was like, okay, I could cross, but I'm not sure how much time I have left, and rather than risking it, and it's not nighttime, so I can't see the traffic light and whether or not it's blinking, I'm like, okay, you know, I'll just wait. And so I'm waiting, and this guy, he's like, hey, do you need help crossing? And I was like, oh, well, actually, you know, I wasn't sure how many seconds I had left to cross. And he's like, oh, I think you might be fine. He's like, would you like some help? And, you know, I'm like, okay, sure. You know, I'm in a really good mood. I'm not feeling, like, crotchety or whatever. Sorry, my Braille note's restarting in the background, if you guys noticed that. So, you know, we're crossing, or no, so he takes my arm, he's like, sorry, I have a bike, so he's adjusting his bike, and yada, yada, yada. So we start crossing, and as we're crossing, like, the cars, the perpendicular traffic, the traffic in front of us, starts moving. And he's like, oh dear, I almost led us to our demise, and he, like, steps back very quickly, and I was just like, oh gosh. I was telling this to my sister, and she's like, the sighted people are sometimes worse than you VIPs. I was like, I know. Alright, so he's, you know, we step back hurriedly, and, but we're not on the curb, so then a car, like, beeps at us because it wants to turn, and he's like, oh, this car wants to turn left, come, let's move back some. I was just like, oh, and I couldn't think of a nice way to just be like, sir, I'll cross on my own when I know that it's time. So when it was actually time to cross, you know, we crossed together, and it was fine, and we parted ways, and then after that, everything was fine. But it was just strange, from a guy taking a picture of my eyeballs to almost dying when the sighted offered me assistance. Like, I think that's hilarious. So when people just call out that I can cross, I usually am a little hesitant, and I'm already, like, focusing in on the traffic, so if I feel like that, you know, they're not leading me astray, then, you know, I'll also cross, and I'll thank them. Or I guess it's very situational. But if someone offers to help me cross, then I'll just, you know, I'll take it. If I feel like it, I'll just take it. Because I'm like, unless they're just suicidal and crazy, you know, the person they'd also be putting their own life in jeopardy. So I'll trust them to cross with me, you know? I guess it also depends on how they sound, too. If they sound like they might be crazy, then I might not. And sometimes I can be a little discriminatory in my voices. Like, if the person sounds like they might be homeless. And I know this sounds really bad, but I just kind of don't want them touching me. You know, it's New York City. There's a lot of homeless people. And I will, like, you know, give you money or food or something. Just don't, touch me. It's, like, I don't know how clean you are. And I'm going off on a tangent now. So yeah, thank you guys. 100 subscribers, over 1,100 page views on my blog. You guys are awesome. Thanks. And hope you guys have an awesome weekend.